You might be surprised that I'm talking about this show. And yeah, I was not originally planning on watching it because I have not yet played the game it's based on. I am gonna start it though, like right after I finish this video. Cause this show is pretty freaking good. So I'm gonna give you a spoiler warning. This first season has wrapped up, so if you have not watched it all the way through, I would advise against watching this video unless you don't care. You have been warned, so let's dive in. The Last of Us, Season 1. So The Last of Us is a new series on HBO Max which is completely crushed. Everyone and their mother's talking about this show. Like I mentioned, it's based off of the beloved video game that came out 10 years ago exclusively for PlayStation 3. It's been remastered a couple of times. It's on Steam now as Part 1 from creator Neil Druckmann. So The Last of Us is a post-apocalyptic story. It takes place in modern day, but it's been 20 years since the apocalypse happened. Cause you know, a super virus has taken over, kinda like The Stand, except this time around, it's a fungal infection. The cordyceps fungus, which usually in our world, it's actually a real thing. It affects bugs and ants in the rainforests. In this story, it has mutated to affect humanity, so now most people in the world are mutated, weird, clicker zombie things. And The Last of Us are just trying to survive. Enter one of our main characters, Joel Miller, played by Pedro Pascal. Daddy. I can't believe I just said that, honestly. But that's what he is. I'm just saying, man, with The Mandalorian Season 3 and now The Last of Us, like, we are in peak Pedro Pascal mania. How can you not have, like, a man crush on this guy at this point? I remember first seeing him getting his head crushed in Game of Thrones. But yeah, Joel Miller, he is a hardened individual, I'll tell ya. Well, since I already gave you the spoiler warning, I might as well say, his daughter died 20 years ago when the outbreak first happened, in a tragic scene, oh my god. With each episode that dropped of this show, I did go back and look at clips of the original game on YouTube to see how they compared, and oh my god, this show is so fucking accurate. I love that. I mean, the beginning of the show, it actually does expand on the beginning of the game. The beginning of the game where his daughter dies, that's like the first 15 minutes. In this first episode, the pilot, it's like the first half of the episode. It's like 20, maybe even 30 minutes. It expands on the character building and the lore, which actually a lot of the show expands on that from the game, I heard. And yeah, I will say, I mean, right off the bat, this is pretty much, no, absolutely, the very best live-action adaptation of a video game that exists, ever, of all time. And I think we can all agree on that. I'm glad Hollywood finally learned, hey, we don't have to cram a 30-hour game into a 2-hour movie. No, we can make it a 9-hour season of television. And that really works for The Last of Us. So the main premise of The Last of Us is Joel has to escort a young girl named Ellie Williams across post-apocalyptic America. Ellie is played by Bella Ramsey, amazingly, I might add. I heard so much about the game, you know, in the past decade, and I heard that Ellie is one of the best video game characters. So who better to get Lady Mormont from Game of Thrones to play her in The Last of Us? It was brilliant, genius move because she is an awesome actress. Bella Ramsey as Ellie Williams steals this entire show. Don't let anyone tell you different. Yeah, I know, Pedro Pascal, he's great. Ellie for the win. She is the other main character, and she is awesome. Cause she was born after the outbreak happens. She has known nothing but this shitty apocalyptic world. And she has seen some pretty dark shit herself. I will get to that later on. So she has a chip on her shoulder, she swears. She's like 18 years old, she acts like she's twice that age. Which makes sense, cause you kinda have to, you gotta survive. But the thing about Ellie is that she is immune to the cordyceps fungal virus. And she has the bite mark on her arm to prove it. She's had this mark for like a few weeks, she still hasn't turned. And so that's why she is pretty much cargo, at least at first. Joel has to escort her from point A to point B as a delivery. And that is what The Last of Us is. The Last of Us is Joel and Ellie. Their story of journeying across the country, they're bonding as they go, and let this TV season based off a video game commence. And yeah, this show is fucking awesome. I had a blast with this show, oh my god. That's why I'm like, okay, once I'm done with this video, I am gonna go play the game and compare the two and just have a great time with that. Again, so happy I have a PlayStation now. Let's just talk about Joel and Ellie, okay? Let's just get right into it. Joel Miller, Ellie Williams, Pedro Pascal, Bella Ramsey, excellent chemistry. These two Game of Thrones veterans work so well together. You can tell they just had a blast filming this thing. Cause it is the classic story, you know, like at first Ellie is just cargo, she's a means to an end, and you know Ellie is going to remind Joel of his deceased daughter. Ever since his daughter passed, he has become, you know, hard on the outside, and Ellie is gonna break through those walls and find that Joel still has a heart of gold on the inside. I mean, obviously he's no saint, he's no Steve Rogers, he has done some dark shit and he will do some dark shit throughout this entire season, but I mean, come on, it's the post-apocalypse, you kinda have to if you want to survive. And there is a lot that they have to survive from. Not just the infected, although the infected, holy shit, are these things scary. The makeup is amazing in this show. Because you can tell, like, some of these things, they are so infected, they are no longer human. They are monsters. The really, really infected ones that they call clickers because they make clicking sounds like the Predator. One scene, man, towards the beginning of the season where they're hiding from that one clicker, it was like a horror movie. It was awesome. Or how about that big old motherfucker that rises out from the ground? Holy god, that thing. Was that like a mini-boss in the game? I actually don't know. Guess I'll find out, though. I also love the environment of The Last of Us. It is your standard post-apocalyptic look, you know, where the buildings are all leaning on each other and they're covered in grass and plants. We start off in Boston, which is why I'm wearing this shirt. We eventually get to Wyoming, so we see quite a few places and they are just run down. It looks great. After that, the world building is really good, and this is where I guess we differentiate from the game a little bit. Cause like I said, I heard this series does expand on the world that the game built up. The third episode with Bill and Frank, that's the one that everyone really raved about. Bill is played by Nick Offerman. This man named Frank comes along where he lives, and the two form a romantic relationship, and so the third episode is just their story, which I heard was not in the game at all. I heard in the game, when you're playing as Joel and Ellie, you come across Bill where Frank has already died, but Bill is still alive. In this season, we see Bill and Frank, we see their story, and then they both die at the end. And so when Joel and Ellie eventually get to their place, they're both dead. That was a differentiation, but this episode, I gotta be honest, not the high point of the season for me. TBH, I thought it was kind of slow, and I was like, okay, I don't know these guys. I've been attached to Joel and Ellie for the past 2 episodes. Can we get back to them? And actually, a couple episodes in this season do that. Again, it expands the world, and that is very much appreciated because I love world building. I'm a fan of that shit. But you can have world building while also focusing on the main characters that we, care about. Case in point, Henry and Sam. Holy shit. This is like episode 5, so right smack dab in the middle of the season. We come across these brothers, and this being post-apocalypse, whenever you come across someone, you instantly cannot trust them because they're probably trying to get something out of you or they're trying to kill you. But Henry and Sam, no, they seem like actual decent people. They've done what they needed to survive, just like Joel and Ellie. And so you're thinking, okay, so it can be like the 4 of us, we can be the core 4, because we're actually starting to befriend these two. But nope, we get into a skirmish with some infected. The little brother Sam gets bitten, and oh my god. The scene where Ellie and Sam, they're in the bedroom, and Ellie's like trying to heal his wound. She's like, my blood is medicine, you'll see. And then nope, the next morning, Sam has turned. Oh my god, then Henry ends up having to kill his younger brother, and then he kills himself. Holy god. That sucked. That was so good. Talk about sad. Bravo. In fact, right now I'm gonna look up the actors because their names escape me at this point, but I have to give them props. So let's see. Lamar Johnson as Henry, and Kevon Woodard as Sam. The both of you. Bra fucking vo. You both did great. And so Joel and Ellie, they bury Henry and Sam, and then they move on. Eventually we get to Wyoming, where we come across Tommy, Joel's brother. Tommy's played by Gabriel Luna from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Terminator Dark Fate, which makes this the best thing I've seen him in. Now at this point, Ellie is still considered as cargo to Joel. So Joel pretty much just drops Ellie off. He's like, alright Tommy, you deal with her. But at this point, Ellie has become so reliant on Joel because they had been through some shit together. By the end of this whole section of the season, Ellie decides, she's like, no, I don't want to go with Tommy. I want to go with Joel. I like that. I like when a story is about 2 characters that have to stick together no matter what. Hence why I hated the ending of Toy Story 4. And then they come across these raiders. Joel gets very badly injured, so Ellie ends up having to take care of Joel. This is where we get to one of my favorite episodes of the season, Left Behind. This is the 7th episode. Left Behind is based off of DLC from the first game, and it is a flashback, which means more world building, but it's some backstory to Ellie. Ellie and her best friend Riley, played by Storm Reed here. This episode is the 2 of them. They're alone in a mall, they're exploring, and man, the chemistry the 2 of them have is just great. We learn that Riley has joined the Fireflies, who I haven't mentioned yet. The Fireflies, they're like this rebellious group, like the Vox Populi from BioShock Infinite. They're douchebags though, so we don't really like them. Riley has ended up joining them. Ellie doesn't like that too much, because they're like best friends. And after this night they spend together in the mall, Ellie's like, don't go, don't join them. And Riley's like, okay. And then Ellie kisses her and, oh man. This show does emotions so goddamn well. Touching moments like this, followed by the worst of tragedies, like every time. This show, and I'm sure the game is like this as well, every time we see a sliver of hope, it just yanks the rug out from under us. Whether it be with Joel's daughter Sarah, or with Henry and Sam, and now with Riley. It looks like Riley might come back to Ellie, but nope, then an infected gets in. And they both get bitten, so you're like, ah, shit. So this is what originally scarred Ellie. This is the dark shit she has seen before she met Joel. And so they're just sitting there, and Riley's like, we can just sit here and lose our minds together. And you can piece together in your head, this is the moment where Ellie found out she was immune, because Riley obviously ended up turning, and Ellie, I guess you assumed she had to kill her. God, the tragedy, the humanity. And so back in present day, Ellie's like, nope, I am not gonna leave Joel to die. I'm gonna save this motherfucker because he is my father figure at this point. This is what really bonds the two of them. This is their bonding moment. This is where Joel is like, no, Ellie is not just cargo at this point. And then we come across David. Oh, this motherfucker. Have I mentioned how good this season is yet? David has his community of people. I guess they're religious nuts. I don't know if that's like the game or not. But you learn that these people are cannibals. Unknowingly, actually, according to David anyway. The scene where Ellie's locked up in the cage, and she finds out that, yeah, that meal that David's been serving his people, yeah, that's human meat. Love the part where she breaks his finger, and she's like, tell him my name is Ellie. And that's the girl who broke your fucking finger! I know that that's right out of the game, and I love that shit. So fucking gratifying when Ellie finally gets a hold of him and just bludgeons him, just stabs him like 32 times. Oh my god, that was awesome. Again, also right from the game. I love that. This season is so accurate. I love that Hollywood has finally learned, hey, we shouldn't change shit from the original source material. We should just do that, but in live action. Because that's what people love. People love the original source material, so let's just do that. Yeah, that's what we've been saying. Alright, so we get to the finale. Episode 9, Look for the Light. Joel and Ellie, they get to the Fireflies, and the reason the Fireflies wanted Ellie in the first place is because she is immune. The Fireflies are gonna try harvesting a cure from her. They're led by Marlene, who's played by Merle Dandridge, who also does a great job. And she tells Joel, she's like, alright, we're prepping Ellie for surgery. And Joel realizes, oh, wait a minute, they're gonna kill her because the cordyceps grows in the brain. So they're gonna do surgery on her brain? Yeah, she's gonna die. We can't have that happen. No, we love Ellie, so we gotta save her. And thus, the famous moral dilemma that concludes The Last of Us. Joel is just storming through this building, wasting everyone. I mean, he is a one-man army. The music's kicking on. I'll get to the music in a minute. But I actually love this scene. Because this is Joel's character growth. Because now he sees Ellie not just as cargo, not as just a friend, but pretty much a new daughter. She's family. And we're not about to let another daughter of Joel's die on our watch. So yeah, we're rescuing her. So he gets into the surgery room, plugs one of the doctors in the head to show he means business. Probably not the best idea. Just saying. And he gets Ellie the fuck out of there. But not before killing Marlene. And he actually brings up a great point when he does, because she's like, let me go. And Joel says, you just come after her. Bam! Shoots her in the head. Because he was right. She would absolutely just come after her. Only way to ensure she doesn't, plug her in the head. Now here's where the big moral dilemma comes in. Because we don't know, at least not at this point, that this is what Ellie would have wanted. Did she want to give her life so that there might be a cure for this fungal virus? Or did she want to live? Joel comes up with this lie. He says, oh no, there are actually a ton of immune people like you. And hey, bad news, they couldn't make a cure out of it. Sorry, guess there's nothing we can do, but hey, you're still alive, so we can still keep palling around together. And the season ends just like the game does, where Ellie's like, alright, swear to me that you were telling the truth about that. And Joel says, I swear. Last shot's a close-up of Ellie, and she pauses and eventually says, okay, cut to black. Great ending. I love that ending. God, this season, this story of The Last of Us, usually I am personally not a big fan of post-apocalypse stories just in general. Because most of the ones I've seen, they're all pretty much the same thing, you know? Oh, we're survivors of a zombie apocalypse. Now we're living like we're in the Dark Ages. Now we just gotta live and fight zombies. This story is all about the characters. It's all about Joel and Ellie. It's a tragedy with great world building, awesome writing, and a fantastic score. Gustavo Santaolalla, who did the score for the games, he also did the score for this adaptation. And it's great. We got that Spanish guitar. Dun, 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 dun. It's a great theme. I love the title sequence where it shows the virus growing and we see the US getting consumed. I'm like, yep, that's some Dawn of the Planet of the Apes shit right there. Never a bad thing. Yeah, this score is awesome. In fact, I might actually get this soundtrack, as well as the soundtrack of the game once I play it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Guys, in the end, I've been standing here talking for an hour about The Last of Us. Obviously, I'm gonna whittle it down to a video, but that's how great this show is. It's amazing. All my props to Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. Bella Ramsey has a bright career ahead of her. Pedro Pascal is in his peak. The world building is great. The story is great. It's a character growth journey with Joel and Ellie. It's one that hooks you and does not let you go. And whoo boy, am I ever so looking forward to the next season. Wonder how they're gonna pull that off. But as for right now though, cards on the table, this is probably gonna end up being one of my favorite TV seasons of the year. Doesn't matter if you've played the game or not, I highly recommend watching it. Check it out on HBO Max. So, The Last of Us Season 1. Have you watched it yet? What are your thoughts on it? What's your favorite episode, your favorite part of the story? And from what we've heard about Season 2 and possibly 3 so far, what do you think they might do differently from the game, The Last of Us Part 2? What are your theories about that? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!